In this video, we will explore the world of partitions. This is another way of talking about how we can split a segment in a certain way, in a certain ratio. So let's build our way up with baby steps. Problem number one, find the number that is halfway between 12 and 40. So imagine a number line. And on your number line, there is a 12 and there is a 40. If I want to go halfway, one way of picturing it is start by figuring out what's the total distance between 12 and 40. Okay, so one way to come up with that is by subtracting. So 40 minus 12, that's 28. So we're talking about a total distance of 28. So keep that in mind. Okay, so if I want to go halfway, I'm going to go half of 28. All right, so half of 28, of course, all right, and sometimes we would write it this way, half of 28 is 14. So that means we want to go 14 from either endpoint. So if I wanted to go 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Boom. So what I really did, if I went 14 steps to the right, didn't I just add 14? So if I want to figure out where I am halfway, that'll just be 12 plus 14. So that will be 26. All right, so what's the number that's halfway between 12 and 40? 26. All right, find the number between 12 and 40 that is 3 times as far from 12 as it is from 40. All right, so let's start off with the same picture. Okay, so here's our number line up. Here comes our number line again. All right, so here's 12 and here is 40. Okay, keep in mind once again, we already know that the total distance between these is 28, so we're probably going to need that again. Okay. Okay, let me see if I can come up with a simpler way of saying 3 times as far from 12 as it is from 40. So imagine that I have 12 right here. Okay, so imagine that this is at 12. If I'm going to be 3 times as far from 12, that means for every 3 steps away from 12, I should be only 1 step away from 40. Okay, so that means, so here's 40. All right, so for every 3 steps I am away from 12, I'm going to be 1 step away from 40. That would make the distance from 12 3 times as far. But what's important here is, what is the total distance? Okay, can you see that the total distance here between, well, the total number of steps that I've described here is 4. All right, 3 steps from 12, 1 step from 40, that's a total of 4 steps. So, a simpler way of describing this is I am 3/4 of the way from 12. Maybe I should color coordinate this. All right, because the total is 4, if I take 3 steps from 12, that's 3/4 of the way. Okay, so that's going to be 3/4 of the way from 12. And if I step away from the 40, I'm going to be 1/4 of the way from 40. Okay? So, I want to go 3/4 of the way from 12 and make my partition. I want to find that number. So, don't forget that the total distance is 28. So the question becomes, what is 3/4 of 28? All right, because that'll be 3/4 of the way. 3/4 of 28 is going to be the same thing as, well, let me just use my calculator. I know that 4 goes into 28 7 times. 3 times 7 is 21. So I know the answer is 21. But many students are not going to follow that. So that's why I'm reaching for a calculator. So we could say 3/4 of 28. And like I said, that's going to be 21. So that means I need to go 21 spaces away from 12. Now I don't feel like putting 21 little bumps here, so I'm just going to put one big jump like that. Okay, and say kabam. But I'm going 21. All right, I'm going 3/4 of the way. You know what, maybe I should have made it look a little bit bigger. Because if it's 3/4 of the way, then it should be closer to 40, right? So here I am, I'm going 3/4 of the way from 12. And turns out that that is 21 steps away. So what number am I? Well, what's 12 plus 21? That's going to be 33. So that is going to be the answer to the question. All right, problem number 3. We're given these 2 points, A and B, and we're supposed to find the coordinates of point P that partitions the directed line segment AB in a ratio of 1 to 3. First, let's talk about this ratio of 1 to 3 before we do the problem. We're talking about from A to B. So when I say ratio 1 to 3, that means for every one, let me color coordinate this. This means for every one step away from A, okay, so let's call this point A. For every one step away from point A, I am going to be 3 steps away from B. All right, now here's the important part. What's the total number of steps? Can you see that's going to be 4 steps? So that means the number of steps I'm taking away from A, all right, I'm doing 1/4, I'm moving 1/4 of the way from A. And if I were moving from B, that would be 3/4 of the way. So I'm going 3/4 of the way from B. Now, from now on, I'm not going to go through this whole analysis with the steps. I'm just going to do this. Okay? Whenever I see that the ratio from A to B is 1 to 3, I'm just going to sit here and go, okay, I know the total is 4. That means it's going to be 1/4 of the way from A, and it's going to be 3/4 of the way from B. All right, it takes 5 seconds and I'm done. So now let's draw our picture. Well, there's really going to be 2 pictures. Because I have ordered pairs, these are X's and Y's, and I really need to treat them separately. So over here on the left, I'm going to make a picture for x values. Okay? And then when I'm finished with that, I'm going to make a separate picture for y values. So, the x value picture is like this. So here comes my number line. All right, my lower x value is -1. Okay, and that's point A. And my higher x value is 7, and that's point B. So I need to figure out the x value that is 1/4 of the way from A. So in order to figure that out, I need to keep track of what's the total distance. So from -1 to 7, the total distance is going to be 8. Okay, and sometimes I put 0 in here. I imagine 0 to help me out. So that's 1 to the left, 7 to the right, total of 8. Okay, so the question is, if I want to be 1/4 of the way from A, then that means I'm doing 1/4 of 8. All right, that's just 8 divided by 4, that's 2. So if I move 2 steps away, then where will I be? All right, if I move 2 steps away, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to be at +1. All right, and you can think of it as starting at -1 and adding 2, -1 plus 2. Okay, so that's my x value. My x value is +1. Now let's do the y values. Okay, so now here comes the y values. Okay, so my lower y value is 2, and that's my a value. My higher y value is 14, and that's my b value. Okay, so again, I need to think about what's the total distance here between 2 and 14, and that's just going to be 12. All right, so the total distance is 12. Now, I want to be 1/4 of the way from A. So the question is, what's 1/4 of 12? Well, that is 3. Okay, so if I go 3 steps away from A, the question is, where will I be? Well, I'm just adding 3, so that's going to be 5. So that is the y value. So I just found the x value and the y value. So that's why the point P that partitions this segment in the ratio of 1 to 3 is going to be 1, 5. All right, the x value and the y value. So this is the final answer. All right, looks like the next one is very much the same. So I encourage you to pause the video, try to do number 4 by yourself. So I'm going to assume that you did that. So here's the key before you even begin. We are partitioning the directed line segment AB in a ratio of 1 to 2. Okay, that means for every 1 step away from A, we are 2 steps away from B. But hey, the total number of steps is 3. That means if we take 1 step away from A, we are 1/3 of the way from A. So 1/3 away from A. And if we were taking 2 steps from B, because this is like our A and our B. So every 2 steps from B will be 2/3 of the way, because you have to look at the total. So we will be 2/3 from B. Okay, because we have x's and y's, I'm going to have to calculate them separately. So I'm going to do my x values, and then when I'm done with that, then I'll do the y values. Okay, let's go ahead and make a picture for the x values. Okay, my x values are -2 and 7. So I'll put -2 and 7, and that was A, and that was B. So before I do anything else, I need to analyze and figure out what's the total distance between these points. Okay? And sometimes I like to think to myself, wait a minute, where's 0, first of all? So, for example, imagine that 0 is right here. That's 2 to the left, 7 to the right. So that's a total of 9. Total of 9. So now, the next big question is, look, I want to be 1/3 of the way from A. So that means I need to figure out what is 1/3 of 9. Okay, what's that going to be? You know what? Maybe I could even just use the 9 that's already sitting there. Make this more efficient. All right, if I want to be 1/3 of the way from A, I need to ask myself, what is 1/3 of 9? Well, that's just 9 divided by 3, so that is 3. So that means I need to be 3 away from A. So what if I did that? Okay, whoops. All right, I already know there's 2 spaces to 0, so I could go like this. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that kind of tells me right there that this is going to be 1. But just remember, when I'm moving to the right, I'm adding. So I'm really just starting at -2 and I'm adding 3. -2 plus 3. That's going to be 1. That's my x value. Okay, now let's do the y values. Okay, so here come the y values. The lower y value, okay, look, be careful. The lower y value is actually -2. So I would encourage you to put the -2 here, but just understand that this is B. Okay, this came from B. The higher y value is 4. So I would put the 4 here because it's higher, and just understand that that is A. Okay, so now, what is the total distance from -2 to 4? And understanding that there's a 0 in here somewhere, okay, let's say that was 0. So I have 2 to the left, 4 to the right, that's a total of 6. Total of 6. Now, I am going to keep counting from the left, but this time I'm counting from B. And right at the beginning, we knew we wanted to be 2/3 of the way from B. So now the question is, what is 2/3 of 6? All right, because that would be 2/3 of the way. 2/3 of 6. Well, I know that 3 goes into 6 twice, and 2 times 2 is 4. So that's going to be 4. If that's not clear to you, then you could use a calculator and say, okay, what is 2/3 of 6? All right, and you're going to get 4. So that means I need to go 4 away from B. So I'm going to go 4 away. So you know what, this time, instead of counting each little mark, which is easy to do on this picture, but sometimes it's not so easy, I'm just going to go like this. I'm moving 4 away, so I know I'm moving past 0 for sure. So I'm just going to put, look, if I'm moving 4 over, then that's going to be plus 4. So the question is, what is negative 2 plus 4? That's going to be 2. So that is going to be the y value. So now I found the x value, and now I found the y value. So that's why the coordinates of point P will be 1, 2. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. All right, is this the same type of thing? Find the coordinates that partition the line segment BA in a ratio of 1 to 2. All right, so this is the same as the previous question, but it's BA instead of AB. Okay, so we'll just be very careful with it, but it's really going to be the same thing. Let's just do it quickly. We can see that the total here is 3. But because it's B to A, that means that this is B and this is A. So that means this time we're going to be 1/3 from B, and we're going to be 2/3 from A. All right, that's the big difference. So in terms of our x values, okay, that aspect of it is going to be the same. So we have our negative 2 at A and our 7 at B. Just like before, I'm going to do this a little bit faster since it's the same. All right, from negative 2 to 7, we knew that that was going to be 9. But this time we're going 2/3 of the way from A. Okay, so that's why this time we're going to do 2/3 of this. All right, 3 goes into 9 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6. So I know this is going to be 6. If you did not follow that, you could use a calculator and do 2/3 of 9 that way. So that's 6, like I said. So that tells me that I'm going to start at negative 2, and I'm going to go 6 away. Okay, so I'm going 6 away. So that means I'm doing plus 6. So the question is, where is that? Well, negative 2 plus 6 is 4. So that's going to put me at 4. That's my x value. Okay, now let's do the y value. Okay, so here we go again. Okay, y values. Again, my lower y value is negative 2, so put that first. My higher, oh, and that negative 2, that was B, so label it right away. The higher y value is 4, and that's at A. All right, so we looked at this previously, so of course those are 6 apart, so same scenario. All right, those are 6 apart. Okay, now if I want to move from B, I want to go 1/3 of the way from B. Okay, so that's why I'm going to do 1/3 of this. Well, 1/3 of 6, that's just 6 divided by 3, so that's going to be 2. So if I go 2 over, that means I'm adding 2. So where's that going to put me? Well, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So that gives me a y value of 0. So that means point P that partitions the line segment in the ratio of 1 to 2 has the coordinates 4, 0. Okay, the x value and then the y value. So this is the final answer. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.